v.h.s.x? What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I wanted to talk about Zanryu's video where he actually has a conversation with Scott Jund over the toxicity within DBD, which, as we can tell, Scott doesn't look too good after this situation. But let's get into it. So just to summarize, the story goes that Zanryu was just playing Lich, or Vecna for the initiated, and he was playing, trying to win his matches with his usual, meta build. He went against a team that was also using meta as well, so pretty much a fair game at that point. Both sides were trying to win, and apparently the survivors that were playing against him were bitching, complaining, trying to insult him personally and stuff like that, which is not something that you should be doing, right? So he decided to put it on Twitter to sort of talk about it, right? Talk about the topic of like, how is it that it's okay to play to win on Survivor, but it's not okay to play to win on Killer. And I've spoken about this plenty of times. So then, obviously we Scott doesn't look too good on this, and if you want to see the screenshots and stuff like that, you can definitely check out the original video. He covers the match, he covers the more specifics, but I'm gonna specifically talk about the topic at hand really instead. So I'll link the original in the description so you can really watch and hear the whole situation, but I'm mainly going to be talking about the points that were being made in the video. So one thing right off the bat is apparently winning as Killer is a bad thing. You're a bad person. You clearly are trying to destroy boxes of kittens and puppies with explosions and dynamite, like a cartoon villain. You're tying poor ladies to the train tracks, you know what I'm saying, on in some Western film. Like, you are the most diabolical person in the universe for just trying to play a video game and win. Like, you heard it here, folks. All right, for some reason, somehow, you know what I mean, playing to win, you're a bad person. You clearly need to stop. You know what I'm saying? You clearly need to learn empathy or something like that. Hilarious to me. But anyway, so because he decided to post it to DBD Twitter, we actually see a bunch of, which, as you guys know, DBD Twitter hates camping and tunneling, even when the survivor wants to win. It's really interesting. But as we can see from the video, Scott is now enabling toxic behavior, which is really interesting. I didn't expect that to be the headline for today, but yes, it is indeed true. You can definitely see that with the screenshots. The survivors decided to trauma dump onto Zanryu here, and for whatever reason, he's just supposed to take it. I don't know why that is the case, but for some reason Scott thinks he's just supposed to just take it, and he's supposed to be insulted, and he's supposed to be told to, for him to sleep with the fishes, in other words. And he's a bad person for playing to win the game, but yet it completely ignores the fact that these survivors were also doing the same thing. I find that kind of interesting. So he actually justifies these survivors' actions by saying that you were playing sweaty, so what did you expect? And if you really want to read the screenshots, once again, you can check out the original video to get a much better view of what is being said. But either way, it doesn't look good, and the whole narrative behind Scott was mainly talking about how that Scott is trying to say that Zanryu is like trying to give him this us versus them narrative, and he shouldn't be perpetuating that narrative and all this kinds of stuff. But Scott inevitably is actually adding on to the us versus them narrative, whether knowingly or not, is adding on to that exact narrative by engaging in this sort of debate, you could say, on trying to be right. Because if you think about it, you're not even holding the other side accountable by insulting this person for playing the game. They honestly do not need to hear this information. Like we all bought our games, we all played the game. I don't think anybody is trying to hear somebody complaining about how they played, honestly. You know, and it's really funny that for some reason it only applies to the killer side, and I've said this many times. For some reason it only applies to the killer side. If the killers want to win, all of a sudden you're a bad person. You clearly must be a criminal or something for just trying to win in a video game. But survivors can play however they want, right? I mean, they can run chances, they can go to comp corners, they can body block or gen rush or teabag or whatever people don't like, right? Anything you could think of that you may not like, either to go up against or to see or whatever have you, and they'll just put it on. They don't care, right? It's perfectly okay to do that, you know? When Made for This was ridiculously overbuffed, you don't see any teams not running it, right? Like, you know, like stuff like that, right? No. When there was an exploit where you were invincible by entering lockers, oh no, that was, oh no, we can't like not play that. We can't not do that. We have to go in the locker. Like, we have to do those things, right? You know, and I find it so funny, man. It's so weird, and I don't get it. Like, I don't understand it, dude. And the main takeaway that the video does talk about, and the main takeaway that I also want to throw in there, is that you really should just keep the complaints to yourself. You know what I mean? Nobody is trying to hear you complain about the game. The game is not balanced. The game is not, you know, it's not in a great state usually. And everybody understands that. Everybody knows that. Nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about that. And we should not be sitting around trying to complain to each other about how bad the game is. You just play the game, you know, and if you don't like the game, you don't necessarily have to play it. You know, I've also said this too. You know, they say it's a running meme, but it actually is a factual thing. You don't necessarily, you're not forced to get to log on DBD. You can easily just not get on the game. It's okay. Like, it's okay. Another thing I want to talk about also is, you know, the extremely sweaty sort of narrative that Scott is also implying, as well as a lot of other players that we've seen talking about this topic. A lot of Survivor players that talk about this topic usually are saying that, in other words, if you're trying to play sweaty, or if you're quote unquote, if you're trying to be extremely sweaty and you're trying to just win your games, it's somehow immoral to do that, right? And that's the joke I've been kind of making here. But, you know, I even had this conversation a couple of different times at this point. You know, in my previous videos, I've even talked about it. For some reason, playing to win the game is somehow immoral. Like, there's some kind of morality tied to just playing the video game. Like, and for some reason, it doesn't apply to the side that can bring whatever they'd like, right? And 4 times, mind you, versus the side that can only bring 4 perks. But also, for some reason, there's just this weird sort of 50-50 where it's like only survivors can do whatever they want, but a killer does anything, and for some reason that's a problem. There's like a double standard there. I've always talked about this before. I've said it many times. There's always has been this double standard, and I just don't understand it, right? Because as we even seen in this example that Zanryu has given us, it's like both sides were bringing things to win the game, meaning that both sides were fully prepared for the other. That means that it's an equal match, an equal competition, right? They're both bringing things to win. They're both prepared for each other's plays and things like that. And if they're both skilled, it's going to be a pretty interesting match, right? Because they're both trying to, you know, go, you know, head to head. It's literally like the most fair it could probably be, right? Like, it's a pretty decent killer. You got really strong perks. It's, you know what I mean? Like, you have every advantage pretty much, especially if they're even in a Swift or comms or something like that. Usually that's how it works as well. You have the pretty much the exact situation that you would want in a situation like this, right? Like, he's not even stomping like solo queue, like maybe like 100-hour players. Like, they're going like these players, you can even see in the gameplay, are experienced. Like, they know how to loop, they know what they're doing, they know how to use their perks. I wouldn't say that they're like you know, like comp level or anything, but you know, they were good enough where they were able to hold their own. It's not like it was a complete wash per se, right? Like, it's, you know, they're not completely unaware. Like, they know what's meta, right? That's what they brought. You could even see it in the builds, right? They brought things to counter tunneling and slugging and things like that. And yet for some reason it's Zanryu's fault for playing the match and winning, like, and he's like a bad person for doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand how that makes sense. And I always hear this thing, this whole miserable to go up against, right? And the funny thing is that there's plenty of stuff that survivors either bring or do that is also miserable to go up against. You know what I mean? I mean, we can talk extensively about this, right? Like, there's teams that bring head on, right? And then they used to send, you know, when map offerings were at its peak, they used to bring themselves to Dead Dog Saloon, right? With like hundreds of lockers on main building. They all fly in there. You think that most people would want to enjoy going up against that, especially if they haven't gone up against it before? Probably not, right? Like, you're just gonna keep getting stunned over and over, maybe, right? Or what about somebody who is going up against a team that used to send themselves to Erie Crows, right? And they used to have boil over, right? They used to have flip flop. They used to have with the boon to pick themselves up and stuff like that. So what about that, right? Like, what if there's a person that goes up against that and they don't know how to counter it? Do you think they want to go up against that too? Like, what about going against gen speed builds, like just absolute gen rushing, like on top of gen rushing? I don't think people want to go up against that either, right? Second chance perks as well. I mean, like, there's tons of things that survivors can do that a lot of people probably wouldn't like. But for some reason, oh, it's the killer. It's like, why? Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? It just was so weird. There's like a lack of accountability on the survivor end, and I just don't get it. Now, are there killers that do participate in playstyles that may not be super great? I mean, of course, right? We've seen that plenty of times. I mean, there's big people that will just slug people out from the very start. Like, they'll just slug them. Like, it'll be like a solo queue team. Let me really set the scene here. It'll be a solo queue team, maybe very low hours. They will slug them all out until death. Don't even hook them. And that, I'm like, okay, that's kind of unnecessary. You could just hook them at the end, at the very least. Like, move on to your next game. Like, it doesn't need to be that crazy. And that I can understand. I'm like, all right, like, that's a bit unnecessary when, you know, the team is pretty bad. Like, you know, you're kind of dragging it out. And we even seen at the lower levels, like, that happen, like, that can happen. I mean, I've played even some Survivor recently, which you guys know I don't play any Survivors, so my MMR on that side is extremely low. So you guys know, like, I've seen plenty of players that are very inexperienced and gens do not get done. Like, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that it would be cool to, you know, go the extra mile against those kinds of players. And I've seen it, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen it as well. It's kind of unnecessary. Like, a gen, there would be one gen every like 2 minutes at that point. You know what I mean? Like, that's plenty of slowdown. I don't even think you need to even strategize when players are that inexperienced. And that's what I've also talked about as well when it came to utilizing strategies, is that it's unnecessary against inexperienced players. That's not to say that every player isn't experienced, by the way, as well, because there are experienced players that also you can go up against and you have to utilize strategies, like, you know, because they are experienced and they you need to be able to at least have a chance of winning, right? So I've spoken about this extensively, like I've said, and I just don't understand it as well, like what this sort of idea of like morality kind of comes from, because we've seen, like, there's probably no other game I can think of besides like For Honor, which is like a hero fighter kind of thing. There's no other game that I've ever seen that has this weird culture around who you're playing and how you're playing, besides For Honor. I mean, I've seen like Siege, for example, like Street Fighter, whatever have you. They don't have, like, it's PvP, and there's really no culture around how you play, what you use, how you play. There's no weird thing of empathy with that, and like, there's no other game that does that. Even like a shooter, like I call it like Call of Duty or something, or Apex Legends. Like, nobody's going around and saying, wow, like I shouldn't have shot Wraith, I shouldn't have shot Octane, like, oh god, he's got like no real legs, it's not fair. Like Like, no, like, or whatever have you. Like, oh, he didn't have a good gun, so so I shouldn't shoot him. Like, what? What's another character? Oh, Revenant, you know, he's a low tier, so I shouldn't shoot him. Like, nobody does that. Like, even on Street Fighter, like, if the better player comes out on top because they've learned how to play their character, they learned how to counter the other person, and then that's sort of the gameplay around it. Like, you going against your opponent and learning how to counter each other, and therefore improving at your character and improving at the game. That happens like on Street Fighter. You've seen that even with shooters as well. Like, it's all about strategy, getting points, taking out your opponents. There's no other game that has this weird culture, man. I gotta say. And I think that's what's making the game worse for everybody who plays it, because of this weird culture and victimization of the survivor side, because for some reason they want to criticize you for just trying to win a PvP game, which everybody wants to win. Like, it makes no sense. So I don't get it, right? And ultimately, I will say that a big creator like Scott Jund sort of putting in this sort of narrative and trying to push this sort of idea that you shouldn't try to play to win as a killer, but yet survivors can do whatever they want, is only adding to the us versus them narrative that he's so painstakingly trying to prevent. And I think that's the biggest issue with the DBD community as a whole. I think that we need to remove this idea of morality behind playing a video game. I've even spoken about this with the Twins Main Sage videos that I've covered. Like, you should be able to play how you want, even if you don't like how it is. It's not like it really matters. It's still a game. It's just a game, right? And as you know, I always talk about like how to win your games and things like that. You know, and improving at the game is what I've always found very interesting. So, you know, speaking as somebody who does enjoy like just trying to improve at my characters that I play and trying to win my games, you know, and I go against competent players. It's not like I'm going against like low level people that get stuck on walls and are all confused. Like, they know what they're doing. Like, they and, you know, and if we've seen it on streams as well, like they're quite experienced. You know, they bring good builds, like they bring meta, like they know what they're doing. And I tried to challenge myself with like perkless and things like that, because to me, like, coming out on top is what's interesting and what's fun, and that may not be what everybody wants to deal with. And I understand that, but that also doesn't mean that, you know, you should be trying to villainize somebody for wanting to do that. Like, you know, that's, like I said, it goes both ways. There's both sides participate in that kind of gameplay. Both sides want to win. But yeah, hopefully that really made some sense. It was kind of a rant, kind of a bit of a yap. Check out the original video for more context, but that's mainly the points I wanted to make in the video. And yeah, I just thought that I'd talk about this topic, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. While you're down there in the description, support the channel with the links. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and let me know what you guys think of the topic. Consider following on Twitch to watch me play Killer live, and becoming a member or joining the Patreon to support the channel and also check out exclusive content. And I will see you guys in the next video.